Today on Decode Beauty, I'm going to be decoding how I do soft glam makeup for all my it girls out there, 2025 edition. This is my beautiful model A, and her skin tends to be drier, especially because it is winter here. I'm applying the Dieux Instant Angel Moisturizer all over her face, really focusing it on the areas that feel more dry. I never skip this step because if the skin isn't properly hydrated, makeup will only enhance the dry area. Next is my new obsession. This priming serum creates a beautiful golden glow that still shows through under layers of my makeup. I would wear it even without the makeup, honestly. I'm going to use the Embryolisse eye cream to help reduce any creasing from my concealer, and also I want to make sure that I hydrate under her eyes. For foundation, I have 3 options that are the same shade range but different undertones. First is NARS, described as a warm olive undertone. Second is the Armani foundation, described as a golden undertone. Third is the Dior foundation, which is described as having a warm golden undertone. The reason I say described is because brands' undertones tend to change, and so it's important for us to test them out. I also like to ask my client what they think. We both agreed that the Dior was not it, but she liked the color of the Armani, and I really like the NARS coverage. So what's an artist to do? You already know. We're going to mix them together. I'm using a small flat brush to apply my base, and I like to double check that the color match is blending into her skin. Once I'm cool with that, I am going to use my full coverage foundation brush and just work that foundation into the skin. One thing I find helpful is before adding more product, I really like to focus on blending what's already there. I also work in sections, so I did one side of the face first, and then I'm going to do the center, and lastly I'll blend out the other side. Liquid foundation dries really quickly, so if you put it all over your face and then try to blend it out, it can look uneven. I'm going to switch out my brushes to a Real Techniques angled brush for one more layer. This is a great brush that I use to blend out products and then also add a light coverage. You'll see me use this brush in at least 4 steps, so I would definitely recommend this as a great essential brush to just have in your kit. Now I'm going to bring some definition to her skin using liquid bronzer. This stuff mixes so well with liquid foundation, and it really does look darker in the bottle than it actually applies. I was scared at first too, but once it's blended out, it gives just a touch of warmth. If you like a deep contour, you can definitely build it up. And if you're a natural girly, one layer would work perfectly. I'm using the same brush to blend it out, and I'm going to focus on under the chin, the cheekbones, the forehead, and also I want to do like a soft nose contour. I use that small flat brush to draw lines on the sides of her nose, of course connecting them. I like to add a little bronzer to the eye crease. It's a great way to map out where I'll place the eyeshadow later. Finally, I go back in with the same brush, this time just using the tip. This lets me blend everything down while keeping the product exactly where I placed it. Using the flat side of my Real Techniques brush, I'm applying Danessa Myricks Cream Blush. This gorgeous pinky shade looks really bright at first glance, but I'm telling you the key is to build it up gradually. I have used this color on so many skin tones and it really looks good on everybody. Next, I'm going in with the Tower 28 concealer. This shade is about one shade lighter than her skin tone, and it's perfect for a subtle brightening effect. I don't want to go too light too soon because I want it to be more of a gradient concealer look. This shade is going to act as a transition color. I applied the concealer under the eyes, down the center of the face, along the nose, and even a little underneath the cheekbones. I really like to do under the cheekbones for women of color because it really helps to bring out the contour and brighten the areas where shadows can appear. I forgot my usual concealer brush, so I just grabbed this flat Sigma brush and I'm going to use it with the stamping motion. Honestly, it works so well that I might just have to add it to my go-to tools. It also blends out really beautifully, and I love that it has this serum base so that it makes it really good for under the eyes and any areas with texture. And then I'm just going to take my foundation brush again and use that to just tap over every area that I place the concealer, and so that everything is blended before I move on to the next step. Now for the gradient effect. I'm taking a concealer that's 2 to 3 shades lighter than her skin tone, and I'm applying it slightly higher than the first round. I find that when I do it this way, it brightens the under eye area without giving a super dramatic bright look. Depending on the person and the situation, that could be a good look for you, but that's just not what I'm going for today. I'm using a small eyeshadow brush for this because it keeps the lighter shade exactly where I want it and doesn't blend down too much. And I just pat it under the eyes and gently blend it in. I also like to add one stripe down the nose just to really make that nose contour pop. I blend everything again and spray with the setting spray to lock it in. I'm blending out any creases one last time because I'm telling you, once you add powder, it's stuck that way. I'm going in with the Charlotte Tilbury finishing powder. I like to use this as sort of a guard over the concealer. I use this powder to help prevent creasing, brighten the under eye area, and also, as you can see, it has a really beautiful blurring effect. Before I powder the area, if I see any creasing, I go back in with the small concealer brush, blend it out, and then go back over it with the powder puff. Next, I'm using a one size setting powder. Since we're doing pink blush, I was like, why not? Let's coordinate a little bit and have some fun. This powder is amazing for setting the concealer. It also really helps to prevent creasing. The tone of the pink is very subtle, especially on anyone who's a darker complexion, but I really actually like the brightening and I think that it's cute. I'm also going to leave this on while I work on eyeshadow. That way I can catch any fallout and keep my base looking clean. For eyes, I'm using the Makeup by Mario palette, and this is filled with all matte eyeshadows. I'm starting with the caramel tone color. I have her look straight ahead so I can see exactly where to map out her crease. Once I've created a light guide, I have her close her eyes and I use a fluffy brush to blend the shadow back and forth. I want this color to act as a transition shade, so I'm blowing it out a little bit to prepare for the darker colors I'm going to do next. A quick tip also, please make sure that when you're working with these highly pigmented colors that you're tapping your brush off so that there's no fallout. Then I'm going to take a clean eyeshadow brush and use that to go back and forth just over where that transition line is. Next, I'm going to use a slightly darker reddish brown shade and I'm going to place that into the outer V. The outer V is the V-shaped area between the outer lid and the outer crease. Blend this back and forth, doing it in a V motion. I really take my time with this and build up a little at a time. And I'm going to use that clean eyeshadow brush once again to blend together everything. To really take this eyeshadow to the next level, I'm going to be going in with the cream eyeshadow stick and an olivey bronze shade. Now it's subtle, but this is so good for a smoky eye. I focus on the outer edges of the eye and then I use a clean blending brush to push it towards the center. To make the inner corners pop, I'm using a lighter shimmer eyeshadow stick. It actually creates a really nice base for the shadow to stick to as well. Then I'm just going to take my eyeshadow brush and sweep this from the inner lid towards the center of the lid, blending together the two eyeshadow sticks. As I'm making the eyeshadow more smoky, I really take my time and use the small angled brush that I have to pick up the darker shade from the palette and to deepen the outer V. And then occasionally I will take my blending brush, blend it out a little bit, and then add a little bit more of the deeper color. And as the colors get darker, you can see that I am being more intentional with where I place it. To finish the eyeshadow, I'm layering two lighter tones from the palette over that lighter eyeshadow stick. I love combining a shimmery base with matte eyeshadows. It just creates a really cool finish and texture. I'm lining her eyes with the ColourPop liner. I have her look to the side while I do the inner corner, and then I have her look down for the rest of the eye, and this really helps me to avoid poking them in the eye and just creating a sharp line. Every it girl needs a lash, so these are natural, but they do add a little bit of glam. I measure the lashes to fit her eye, and then I trim the excess to avoid overlap and eye irritation. I have her look down and to the side just like I did with the eyeliner, and I'm going to draw a thin line right above her lash line with the lash glue pen. The lash glue pen makes my lash application so much easier, and it really does look just like black eyeliner. Next, I'm using my tweezers to place the lash right along the lash line. Then I take the tip of the tweezers and gently press the false lash into the natural lash line. I always ask my client if she feels comfortable, and if so, then I'm going to add a second layer of black lash glue to secure everything in place. I use the comb side of the tweezers to blend the natural lashes with the falsies, and then pinch from the inner corner to the outer corner to lock them in. Since her brows are already tinted, I'm just using the Got2b Glue Brow Gel to brush up any stray hairs and to define her shape a little bit more. Then I'm going back in with the Charlotte Tilbury Finishing Powder just to create a soft brow highlight and to blend out any remaining harsh edges so that everything looks perfect. Next, I'm using that same eyeshadow stick as her under eyeliner. It's really soft and subtle, but I think it makes her eyes pop so well. For the bronzer, I'm going to be using the Fenty. And a fun tip I learned from one of my favorite YouTube makeup artists, Hong. He said that you should have your client whistle and bronze the areas that stand out. That is a really helpful trick for me, especially for people that are learning to contour and for my clients that sometimes don't know what to do when I'm doing this part. I'm also going to go back over the nose contour and just add a touch of powder to bring it back to life. Next, I'm sweeping away the translucent powder with a clean brush. It's more of a light tap and sweep motion because I don't want to disturb any of the makeup that I have underneath. I also want to make sure I dust off the sides of the face and anywhere I applied the powder so that I don't get any flashback. For the final set, I'm using two powders. The first is the MAC Powder Foundation. Now this is a full matte coverage, and so I'm using a brush that is going to apply it lightly. Then I use the One Size powder on the lighter areas for a brightened matte finish that doesn't have too much coverage. For blush, I'm going to go back in with that pink blush that I used from Danessa, and I'm blending that with a highlighter color that she has. Normally, I wouldn't apply cream blush over powder, but this actual formula blends beautifully and it adds like a really radiant glow that I like to see on the surface of the skin. I'm going to apply my last spray of setting spray and then blend everything with a clean fluffy brush. Next, I'm using the Tim2 Airbrush Highlighter for a subtle glow. I got this as a sample and I have been hooked since the first time I tried it. I really feel like it gives a beautiful glow, especially on the nose. Next, for lips, I'm using the Makeup by Mario liner to outline the lips and lightly fill in the corners. I really like to take my time with this and not go too much above the lip line since she already has full lips. Then I use MAC's Kind of Sexy lipstick, which is a peachy nude shade, and blend it into the liner with a little brush. To create a little bit more dimension, I'm going to layer on MAC's Syrup lipstick, which is like a pinky shade. And then once again, you know I love to mix stuff. So I'm going to be mixing 2 glosses from MAC and Fenty. Finally, I'm applying KVD's finishing powder, which gives the ultimate blurring effect. And I'm going to follow that up with the Rare Beauty mascara on the upper and lower lashes. To finish the look, I added a little bit of sparkle to the corner of the eyes. And that completes the look. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for next video.
He like when I ride that, pick it up, throw it back, drop that shit. Never go back and forth with a nigga. I'm too pretty, gotta stop that shit. I'm lit.